All right, we are very lucky here to be joined with Jeremy Hobbs. We've had a lot of discussions in the past. We actually tried to record this once before and we failed, but we're going to take two. And yeah, well, I'm excited to bring Jeremy into the fold for you guys. He's had a lot of experience growing a clinic, and I feel in a very sort of systematic way. But not only that, he's now got a new business, which I think is really important for clinicians starting to grow businesses and really understanding that kind of customer journey. So yeah, I'm really excited, Jeremy, to have this second chat with you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Michael. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. All righty, so let's just sort of start off with your professional journey, and do you want to just explain like how it all began?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a physiotherapist by trade, and I've been a physio for about 25 or 26 years, thereabouts. And I've been a business owner for about 17 of those. And so I bought a large practice. I was a physiotherapist, working on the tools as a clinician. I went back and did my master's degree. So I've got a master's in musculoskeletal and sports physio. And then I went out like a lot of technicians do, and they think, okay, I reckon I can run a business. And I did that, and I joined a large group called the Back in Motion Health Group. And I was very fortunate because that group gave me a lot of experience to business coaching and a lot of, back end training and management. And so I obviously very quickly moved from being just a clinician into a business owner, and been doing that for 17 years, and sold the business a couple of years ago to focus on this new training and mentoring business where we help other business owners manage their staff and train their staff and mentor their staff in ways that are ethically sustainable and bring profits to their bottom line.
Yeah, unreal. Love it. A lot to unpack. All right. So a big thing like being a business owner is this kind of concept of like freeing yourself. So, a lot of clinicians from my discussions, the technician, extremely good at what they do. They build their business off the back of word of mouth because, they just good at their caper. So I guess that next transition now is they want to kind of free themselves from the day to day. And do you want to just quickly talk to your journey of like, yeah, how you kind of freed yourself from the business a little bit?
Yeah, well, I was fortunate in a number of ways that being part of a large group, they really encouraged us to work on the business and not just in the business. It was a very, message that was delivered to us early. And I guess within the first few years, I was always doing, never any more than about 60% clinical stuff and 40% on the business stuff. And I think when I've looked at journeys of other business owners, and I've been involved in a lot of business coaching and a lot of, groups of physios that are physio practice owners, and the same goes for osteopaths as well. A lot of them are scared to make that transition because they're making some decent profit on their own, but they're not. That's not thinking long term. And I think sometimes you just have to take that little bit of a hit and just make the decision to kind of start to free yourself from the full-time clinical load so you can work on your business and scale it, and working on those systems that will scale it. And I think the short-term hit pays off. And for us, I was able to do that fairly early on. Really, I've continued to consult because I enjoy it now. I don't, consult because I have to. I consult because I'd like to. And I do about 2.5 days of that a week. And that's still for me about right. And I may scale that down a little bit further. I don't know other owners who scale down to almost nothing. But the hardest part for most owners is just making that decision that they're going to cut down some clinical hours. And it's a scary decision for most, but one that pays off in the long term if they've got some good systems in place and they can work well on their business.
Yeah, for sure. So as you know, like we're in marketing, so a lot of my discussions are around generating leads and new clients and all that kind of stuff for patients. So yeah, what like in the clinic days, what was your main generator of leads, new patients?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on word of mouth and building relationships with our community, and I think that's really vital. And we would supplement that with as Google got bigger and bigger, and of course that's a more recent thing, and that was great because that would generate some leads. But of course, they can be costly. They can cost you a lot of money, so you want to make sure you hang on to those people. But in terms of the largest generator of leads for us, it was our word of mouth. We spent lots of time in business groups, like local business groups, lots of time on marketing to our database. That's a cheaper way of of getting return business as opposed to actually going out and getting a brand new client, and just building relationships via, regular contacts, regular touch points with our database. And that continued to grow our business quite exponentially. We didn't spend a lot of time on doctors marketing. We didn't spend a lot of time on some of the more costly, delivering discounts and those kind of things. It was literally just building relationships and then piggybacking on Google and making sure we kept those clients that came through.
Yeah, for sure. It's really interesting, the idea of discounting. Like, we don't like it, because it tarnishes a brand, and
Correct.
so yeah, I like that. And I think yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's just, yeah, you don't really want to rely on that one little, thing, like if it, like the GP or the community stuff. Like, I think it all works together. Like those, clinicians that are sort of scheduling the time to just, dedicate like an hour a fortnight to whatever communities like
Yeah.
our is. And then, yeah, just, them just getting the Google right. Like, we don't have to be the best at,
No, you
Google.
find a nice stream coming through.
Yeah, yeah. And then that second thing is like, I always think, like when I'm talking to, clinic owners, is like, there are two buckets. We've either got, someone that, yeah, is like actually needs, new patients, but then there people I speak to, majority actually get like a really good flow of new patients, and they're just not really, getting the most out of that, that like
Yeah.
lifetime value of that
Yeah,
patient.
that's right. I think, the data that we've looked at over a range of practices shows that about what if you can sustain a caseload for a practice based on 1% of revenue in terms of number of new patients. So if you've got a $500,000 practice, 50 new patients a month is ample.
Yeah.
Or a $1 million practice, 100 new patients is completely ample. And so I do see a lot of, obviously a lot of practices need to build to that. They need to get that volume of new patients coming through the door. That's important. But I see a lot of businesses who are still working on new patient acquisition strategies when that's not their problem. They've got a big front door, but they've also got a very big back door. And that's the problem, their retention.
Yeah, we were talking last time, you mentioned the concept of leaky bucket.
Leaky, very much a leaky bucket. They just got these holes in the bucket and they're
Yeah.
filling it up with new patients and they're going out and spending lots of money on trying to grab new patients. But if you can't keep them at the bottom end, it's a never-ending cycle of kind of frustration for you as a business owner, because you're spending lots of money, yet your revenue doesn't climb because you're losing these patients out the back door.
Yeah, for sure. And like, with a sort of in the marketing world, we sort of say on average a new patient through Google is going to kind of cost around the $100 mark. And it's like,
Yep.
that's a lot of money if you can't turn that into, $750 or $1,000, So yeah, really, like when I hear that clinic owners can't afford, that amount of budget for Google, let's say, it's really
Yep.
the leaky bucket. That's the issue. Yeah.
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 Absolutely. And I often said to people, it doesn't actually matter how much the Google costs. If you say to somebody, you're going to spend $10,000, but you're going to earn, 100,000, I mean, you do that every day of the week. That's just a great ROI, right? So, it's not about what you spend. It's about how you capitalize on the investment of that. And I think it's important for me to say here that as we talk about retention, that we're not talking about unethical over servicing of clients. And part of our business is we've recognized that doing the good things well and delivering great clinical service is actually what will drive high quality retention. It's actually not necessarily thinking about the numbers. It's having systems in place so that the clinicians in the practice will actually deliver high quality service, get the patients what they need and what they want, and ultimately that will help them return, which is going to be building your retention anyway. So yeah, I just want to clarify that what I'm not talking about as a clinician is unethically trying to bring people back just for the sake of a number. It's actually bringing people back because health professionals in particular, physios and osteos and chiros, we tend, or actually probably more the physios do than the other two professions, but we tend to underservice more than we overservice.
Yeah, it's such a big point. Like, and I've like even the practitioner I go and see, I feel like his mindset is like, well, I've got a challenge. I got to cure, I got to get this guy better in 2 visits, right? And that's just his like think mindset. But like at the end of the day, like I'm walking around with a sore shoulder, like I don't care if it takes 4 or 5 sessions, just like,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. We instruct our clinicians. I mean, a simple question that you can get your clinicians to ask a patient is, are you interested in a quick fix, or are you interested in pain relief, or are you interested in pain relief and a long-term solution? And so you're giving people the choice then. I have patients that are just interested in a short-term fix. They don't want to do anything extra, and that's fine. And there's going to be people like that.
yeah,
But vast majority go, oh, there's a long-term solution. I'd love to know what that is. Okay, and then let me tell you about it. And that's when treatment planning is so vital for clinicians, because I'm not sure that many physios, osteos, chiros do this very well, is being able to sit down with a patient. I think chiros probably do it better than any other profession, actually, and plan out what it looks like for you as a patient, and what that's going to mean for you to get to where you want to be. What's your goals? What's your expectations? And that kind of treatment planning is vital. And again, you're working with a client to deliver an outcome that they're looking for. And that's what's going to help you build that retention, because you're delivering what they want, and what they need and what they want. You're not actually delivering something that they don't need.
yeah, love it a lot. Like, because everyone has that on their website, right? Like every website I see is like, this is our treatment plan and blah, 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 but whether they're actually practicing,
I can tell you they're not, because I mentor a lot of the practices who are kind of saying, yep, we believe in long-term solutions, but they don't treatment plan. They don't do it, or they do it tokenly and not well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I guess a key to that is obviously the effective communication during that patient visit. So you've just kind of spoken like that key element, right? Is just to see like where we're going with this, and understand also from the patient where they stand and what they want out of it. But I guess how do clinic owners, ensure their practitioners are actually consistently communicating those elements?
You have to train it. And what you have to recognize is that clinicians are trained as technicians at university to deliver a service. They're not, the communication skills like good clinical reasoning and patient-centered communication are things that take longer than a university degree to actually develop. It takes time. So they need to be trained in what is it that it makes up good communication. Some owners are really good at that. They know it and they instinctively do it. Others do it instinctively, but they don't know why. And they might need some external training and mentoring into what makes good communication. And I think that's a starting point, is make sure they know what good communication is and what it means. And a way of helping your practitioners improve in that, and it's something that we've done. I'm doing more and more myself personally I'm still training to become a specialist physio. So there's still a lot of clinical work that I do, and I will record myself and I'll video record myself with a consult, with a patient's consent, clearly, and it's just used for my own training purposes. And I can watch back and look at what I'm saying, what I'm doing, and it's become very, very valuable. And we've implemented it with physios as well, where it's just audio recording, and that can just be an audio record of the words that they say. And you can do that very simply, patient's consent. It's just for the physios or the chiros or the osteos to listen to. And they're trying to write down or come to you with a couple of things they did really well, and a couple of things I think they can improve upon. So it's self-development in the communication space. And I can tell you a lot of people sort of balk at that when they hear, oh, I've got to record myself and listen to myself. But the feedback has been astronomically positive. Once it's done, the value from kind of listening back and going, oh, you know what, I interrupt a lot when a patient's talking, or I don't give them a chance to tell their story enough, or I miss that key element of their story, is really vital. And I think it's a great little strategy that owners can use to help develop the communication of their teams so that they are delivering the messages. Now, you might, as an owner, want to listen to those, but I think early on, it's actually just smart to let the clinician listen to themselves. They don't feel like they're being necessarily judged or anything like that in the early days. They're self-learning. But ultimately, it is a good thing to say, can we have a listen together and kind of work on some strategies, particularly if you're looking at their KPIs and they're not changing? Because I can guarantee that if their communication skills improve, their KPIs will improve.
Yeah, it's so good. I remember we were talking about that last time, and I actually was listening to a podcast this morning, and this guy works at one of the AFL clubs in Melbourne, and he was saying he went to a leadership course, and he had to like convince a crowd in like 15 minutes why they had to change something in the club or whatever, and they recorded him like giving that kind of talk, and they said for like a couple of hours after that talk, they just deconstructed everything he basically did right and
Yeah.
wrong. And he
Yep.
was so valuable. Like even, he had energy at the start of the talk, but then he kind of went through a lull and, just,
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, it's really fascinating kind of
It is.
concept.
But
Yeah.
communication is a skill, and it can be developed, and it can be learned, and it can be improved. And I think people just think that, particularly clinicians, we think, oh, we need to know how to treat the back, or we need to know how to treat the neck or the shoulder. And that, yes, we do. We have to do that at a higher level. But the communication is such a critical part of it. And there's lots of research out there that identifies that if we're communicating well and understanding patient expectations and goals, their outcomes go up. Their outcomes are better. And that's only a good thing for your practice in terms of revenue and retention and those kind of things, because patients are more satisfied.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I've got one client that he actually gets a lot of patients coming to him that have actually just been under service from physios and
Yep.
like
Yep.
I think I think it's work cover stuff or TAC, I can't remember. But yeah, and he was kind of like, oh wow, like these patients actually just want to have more care and yeah,
Yep.
I
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
we have a philosophy with our team. We often say to them, like, think about what would you do if it was your mum, right? So if you had your mum coming in, what would you recommend to her?
yeah,
And chances are you're not going to say, see how you go.
yeah,
Chances are you're not going to say, I'll see you in 3 weeks. And if you need me earlier, give me a call. Like, you're actually going to say, Mum, I'm going to check in on you tomorrow. Or Mum, I'm going to see you in a couple of days. Like, so you just, it's reframing it sometimes to think, what would I do for those I really care about? And that's what your patients want to know, right? That you care. They want to
yeah,
know that you care, right? And if you kind of showing that, and there's some great body of research actually that shows that if you push patients out appointments too far, they actually perceive that you don't care.
yeah.
So that's a really important point, is that we think we're doing them a favor by saving them money, but actually what they think is, this person doesn't care about my neck or my back.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's actually funny you raise that. Every time I not that I can see him that often, but I see a doctor or something, I actually ask them that question, like, well, if your son or daughter was in this position, like, what
Yeah,
would you tell them to do? Because they never give you the answer, So
yeah, right.
yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, long-term patient retention. Can we like sort of talk like we have sort of started to touch on that, but yeah, do you have any like other strategies you can share? About building that long-term relationship with patients, like from that first visit.
Yeah, I think you need to have some strategies, that if you're going to build a relationship, you need to be in communication with people.
Mm.
And so, for us, we've had variety of things and different strategies, and we've trialed bits and pieces. And some communities it'll work different to others, but different touch points. Like the first thing that I would recommend that clinicians do is call their patient the day after an initial consult, and it's just a touch point. It's simply, how are you going? And can you imagine if, this is the way I present it to our clinical team, is if you have a much loved pet and you go to the vet, and then the next day the vet calls and says, how's Sparky? How's he going? Has he coped okay? Like, you'd feel really valued. You'd feel really amazingly cared for by that vet. And your patients are no different. So if you've seen them one day and you've given them some advice and things to do, and then you call them the next day and say, how did you pull up? Everything okay? Any questions from the consult? They might say, no, everything's going really well. Or they might say, you know what, I got a bit sore, which gives you an opportunity to tell them what you would like them to do in that moment. But they just feel valued. And that's step one on them going, wow, this person cares about me. And I think as clinicians, the great value in it is that we also, if we've made someone sore, and it happens, we've got a chance to kind of rectify it, or say, look, I'd like to get you back in again sooner than we thought, to make sure we can kind of undo that, so to speak. So that's the first touch point that helps build relationships. And then you need regular ones. And it might be 1 month post-discharge that it's a courtesy call. It could be after 3 months, it's an SMS or an email, or at 6 months. And they're touch points. How your exercise is going. Are you still, doing your 5K walks that you were kind of really committed to and changing your lifestyle? Have you still given up smoking and going well with that? So just some key touch points, along a 12-month journey, keeps you front of mind and shows that you care. None of these are sales calls. None of them are calling them up and saying to them, you must come back and see me, and here's $30 off for another visit. It's all just simply, how you going?
Yeah,
And I can tell you that a lot of these patients, if they'll go, you know what, I've had a bit of a relapse, I've been meaning to call you. Oh, would you like to book in? I've got some spots tomorrow. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks very much. And so it's just these touch points with people that are not salesy in any way. They're literally just showing that you care. But
yeah,
it's in front of mind, because if you if you've delivered what they expect at the consult level, then they'll pick the next clinician based on convenience or price. But if they think that you will go above and beyond, they will drive across town to see you. No matter what you could charge twice as much as the guy down the road, but they want to see you. And so that's the difference. I keep putting up my prices in terms of because of the experience that I've got, but I keep getting busier. So
Yeah.
it's because we're delivering on these relationships with people, and they know that we care.
Yeah, for sure. And like the other thing as well is we know that word of mouth is the biggest driver of new patients. So if you just put in a call and yeah, the patient's sort of like, yeah, I feel great, like thanks so much. How the world works is they're probably going to speak to someone in a couple of days' time and say, oh, you got to go see Jeremy. Like, I've had this like knee issue forever, and because everyone's going to the gym and the thing is that we're all it's like one big kind of community. So
You're at the local barbecue and you're talking about your dodgy knee, and it's like, you should go see my physio. He's awesome. Or you should go see my osteo or my chiro. They're fantastic. They actually called me 2 days ago just to see how I was going. Like,
yeah,
you should see them.
yeah,
And people take personal recommendations over anything else.
yeah,
Like, you think about going to a restaurant. I mean, you can Google all you like. You're looking at TripAdvisor, scores and reviews of you're looking at reviews from people. And more importantly, if you have a friend says, go to that restaurant, I loved it, you're going to do it.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, so good. All right. So yeah, just kind of like want to wrap it up a little bit with like that mentorship program you guys provide, and maybe just if you want to have a chance to speak to that a bit, the second
Okay,
visit.
sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the second visit is the name of our business, and it started off in COVID, where people weren't able to go out as much, and physio owners were looking for ways of training their staff, and they sort of made contact with us, and Zoom became a thing, and so we started doing some training, some clinical reasoning training. So we primarily work with business owners, and they'll bring us in to work with their staff, and we'll often look at clinically how that they are treating patients, the words and the communication that they're using. We'll often dive in a bit deeper and find out what their PVA or their patient visit average is, and kind of look at what might be driving that patient visit average and what can be improving that. But we effectively work on ethically building good clinical skills with consulting staff and clinical staff, so that it ultimately drives more profits back to the owner. And so, that's really the unique difference for us, is we're doing clinical training that helps to drive profits back to the owner, as well as the clinician, because the clinicians have more fun treating people because they're getting better outcomes. They ultimately get paid more because they're seeing more clients. And, our profession typically works in a commission-based model. And so that's where we primarily work. And over time, we've been asked by a number of owners, particularly young owners, can you come in and just show me how you've set systems up and how you've trained trainers? And so we've been asked to train senior clinicians in terms of how they would mentor younger staff. So owners have got us in to do that. And I've had some owners where we come in and help them build some systems around retention and things like that. So it's really broadened to working with local practices in a range of areas. But our bread and butter is working with clinicians and helping them upskill in these aspects of communication and clinical treatment, and particularly things like treatment planning and retention and those kind of things. But we've also worked with owners in terms of helping them develop systems. And it's been a lot of fun. We've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, love it. Amazing. And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they reach out?
Cool. Yeah, so my email is jeremy@thesecondvisit.com.au. We also have a private Facebook group for physios, osteos, chiros. The Second Visit, it's a group just asked to join, and you should say that you're a clinician and it gets accepted. It's a great community of people where you can connect with myself and my business partner James, where we'll be talking about a range of different strategies and helpful tips and hints, and so people can DM us on that platform. And I think the other platform that I would recommend people get involved with, and I'm on that platform often, is the Ultimate Physio Clinic Owners Mastermind group. And it says physio owners, but there are osteos and chiro owners in that group, a lot of, and it's a great community to get to know each other. And it's a free community. People can get great resources and advice on that. And again, James and I, who are fairly heavily involved in that community, are available on there as well. So any one of those channels will get us.
So good. Mate, thanks so much for your time, second time round. And
All good.
yeah, we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks very much, Michael.